The conference hall buzzed with polished conversations, suits brushing past each other, and the occasional clink of glass. The Business Horizons Summit was no joke, where billion-dollar deals often started over coffee, and where egos strutted like peacocks. The front row, reserved for keynote speakers, was neatly marked with gold-accented signs. Each seat was sacred real estate, meant for those whose voices shaped industries. That's where Camille Johnson, founder and CEO of one of the most revolutionary AI startups in Silicon Valley, was supposed to sit. She had just stepped off her panel prep call, clad in a simple, powerful black pantsuit. Her natural curls framed her face like a crown. She walked with quiet certainty, no assistant, no entourage. Just her **. Camille reached her designated seat and lightly touched the back of the plush white chair to check the name tag. It said, Keynote Speaker, Camille Johnson. As she was about to sit down, a middle-aged white man in a Navy power suit suddenly stepped in front of her, blocking her path like a velvet rope with teeth. He glanced at her name badge, then down at her skin, then back at her face with the tightest, most patronizing smile, *. Sorry, sweetheart, he said, not unkindly but condescendingly. These are reserved for speakers. You'll want to head back a few rows. Staff and assistants sit behind the curtain wall, trust me. * Camille blinked. For a split second, she wondered if she should just explain. That would be the efficient thing. But something inside her paused. She gave a small, polite nod, and without arguing, she stepped aside. She didn't need to fight for a seat she already owned. * She took a place 3 rows behind, next to a young man furiously typing on a tablet. No one looked at her. No one asked why a woman in power heels and quiet confidence was sitting among interns. And from where she sat, she watched as the man who had dismissed her lowered himself into her seat, adjusted his cufflinks like he belonged there, and began whispering with someone next to him about pipeline optimization and AR verticals. * When the host took the stage to introduce the keynote, the lights dimmed slightly. The spotlight warmed the podium. The host, a seasoned woman with decades in finance, cleared her throat. *. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the mind behind ClearTech's predictive justice model and one of this year's most requested speakers, Camille Johnson. * There was a beat of silence. The man in Camille's seat looked confused, even craned his neck around as if expecting someone to rise from the backstage. But then Camille stood, calmly, with poise. From the 3rd row back, she walked down the aisle slowly, the room parting. As the truth landed hard in every gaze, people turned. Some whispered, some stared. The man in her seat blinked in slow realization, his face draining of all confidence. * Camille walked past him without even a glance and stepped directly onto the stage. The host greeted her with a warm hug. The microphone adjusted itself. The applause began tentatively, then grew stronger. * She looked out at the crowd for a few seconds longer than expected. Then she smiled and began. * I wasn't always a keynote speaker, she said. There was a time I sat in the back row, not because I was late or uninvited, but because the front wasn't built with people like me in mind. Today, someone tried to remind me of that. Silently, of course, kindly, with a smile. * The crowd shifted. Some nodded, some grew still. The man in her seat slowly slid backward into anonymity. *. But what I've learned, she continued, is that we don't always have to push back when we're underestimated. Sometimes we just have to wait 5 minutes. Let them watch, *. The room erupted. The applause was thunderous this time, not just out of admiration, but out of recognition. Camille didn't need to reclaim a seat. She commanded the entire stage. Every eye, every heartbeat hung on her words as she delivered a talk that seamlessly blended future tech with social responsibility, explaining how bias in artificial intelligence reflects the bias of the real world and how to dismantle both. * Throughout her talk, she never once addressed the man who had mistaken her for less. She didn't have to. He sat hunched, burning quietly with the kind of embarrassment that only comes from public miscalculation. And yet, Camille's grace gave him cover. she never humiliated him. She let the moment do the talking, asterisked when she ended with a vision for a future where access, equity, and innovation met in one room, not separated by rows or reserved chairs. The standing ovation wasn't just for her brilliance. It was for her restraint, her power, her timing, asterisk. Backstage after the speech, several CEOs waited to greet her. Her inbox had already begun to buzz. The same man who stole her seat never approached her, but he didn't need to. He had already been answered in front of everyone. Asterisk. Camille didn't walk back out with a smug grin. She left the building with her head high, checking her phone like she had a dozen things to do. Because she did, she wasn't there to prove herself. She was there to build something greater. And no seat, no assumption, no man in a suit could ever get in her way again.